Hello, my name is Renee Reed. I will be one of your hosts and would like to welcome you to our first Daily Wisdom Words podcast. For those of you not familiar with Daily Wisdom Words, we are a writers' online community for poetry, articles, artwork, music, book reviews, and so much more. We welcome you to join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, where we will talk to some very distinguished authors, and each one specializing in a topic that you do not want to miss.
Hey everyone, I'm Neil Trivedi, and I'll be your co-host for today. I want to thank you for joining us today and give you a very warm welcome to our very first Daily Wisdom Words podcast. We're both excited to be a part of this, and are sure you will be too, with each of our fascinating guests every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific. We also want to give a shout out to all the Daily Wisdom Words members who are listening today. And we want to thank our producer, Monday Abu, for coming up with the idea of this lovely podcast. Want an exclusive sneak peek at the future guests and all our future podcasts? Go on over to dailywisdomwords.com. Starting next Saturday, you'll have full access to our podcast page, which will be updated every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. On that page, you'll see the name of the upcoming guest who is scheduled for the next show. That podcast page can be found in the drop-down menu on our website, dailywisdomwords.com. Not only will you see who the upcoming guest is, but you'll also be able to submit any questions you have for that guest. You can also submit feedback and suggestions. We want to hear from you. When submitting a question, be sure to enter your email address. And remember, if we choose your question to be asked on the podcast, you'll be getting a surprise gift. And we'll announce your name and the gift on the next podcast.
We have decided to start off with a very special guest. She is known as one of America's leading experts on dreams and their meanings. She is also a licensed hypnotherapist. She has appeared on Rachel Ray. She is co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. She's published 7 books, including my new favorite book of all time, and it is called Luminous Humanist. She has published 7 other books, and she also has dream cards that are available on Amazon. But I highly recommend this book. It is my new Bible.
Yeah. So sweet.
So welcome, Kelly, to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
So much.
You're also known as Dr. Dream, by the way.
Yeah.
Something we might get into of how you got that nickname. But before we start,
Sure.
We wanted to ask you, and I believe Kelly, I believe Renee, you have the first question of this. You had a very unusual experience of dying, clinically dead. So Renee, go ahead and start on that.
Well, okay, thank you, Neil. In the book Luminous Humanist, you start off with a story about how you died. And okay, this may sound weird, but I'm kind of jealous because your experience was awesome. And I'm glad you're still here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the 365 messages and affirmations about the book, Luminous Humanist, what does that mean? I mean, where did you come up with that?
Okay. Well, first, before I answer that, I want to just congratulate you all on your podcast. It's one thing to dream about it. It's another to make it a reality. So Renee, Neil, Samantha, and all of the rest of you. Abu, is that how I say her name?
His name is Monday.
No,
Monday Abu.
Monday Abu. Yeah. To all of you and everybody who's listening, bravo. It's a big deal to actually launch a podcast. And I'm so honored to be the guinea pig. I'm a very happy guinea pig. Just very happy to be with you. And Samantha, I love you. And I know Gypsy, Jennifer, your sister, is with us. That's how I know Samantha. Okay. So what happened to me, I had as Rini was saying, a mini death experience. And honestly, it wasn't clinical because I never made it to the hospital. I made it on a gurney, and they were wheeling me up into the ambulance because my heart stopped. Wow. I turned blue. I was unresponsive. And meanwhile, that was my body that was unresponsive. But meanwhile, my spirit was having the most incredible time. And I have to say, like, everything that I've heard about what's on the other side, all of the beautiful things, it was like nothing that could compare to what I actually experienced. It was more of a feeling, but it was visual as well. All I can really say, if I was going to sum up an entire encyclopedia of words to describe this, if I could just sum it up, I would just say I felt free. I felt light. And wow. I felt like enough. You know, I think my life on earth up to that time could be characterized by not enough. And that was my feeling of myself. Like there was always like a striving, a struggling, a pushing, a trying, wow. A getting to, in order to become enough. One day it was that elusive carrot cake that was like always out in front of me, never quite something I could grab onto and take a bite of. But on the other side, it was like, oh my God, what was all that?
That's what I'd like to hear, what you saw.
What I saw was I'll tell you this. After my death experience, I was introduced to the artist Rasuli, who has done my other oracle cards. Let me see if I have any of those to show you guys easily. He did this one. He did this. So here's some of my oracle cards. Rasuli did this. Rasuli did this. When wow. I saw his work, I said, "Oh, you must have been to the other side," because that's what it looks like. That's what it felt like. And that's what everybody who's had a near-death experience tells me. I must have died. And actually, now I'm hearing those crackles again. Maybe it wasn't.
I heard it too.
Okay. Okay, great. So where were we?
You were telling us about your cards and how you asked the author if he
Rasuli, if he died. Right.
Yeah.
So I would say this is kind of, all right, this is going to be a shameless plug, but here's some of the artwork that he did for my Dream Oracle cards. So I'm just going to I don't know if you can see.
Beautiful.
And there's this.
Wow.
And they're all just like, okay, look at this one. Ugh. It's like,
my
just,
God.
I know.
Wow.
This is.
Wow.
To me, okay, this one especially, this one is key. This is kind of the feeling and a bit of the essence of what I saw. It just felt like the aurora borealis, and it felt like it just kept getting better. I heard the saying before that when we rise up in consciousness, it's as if we move from glory to greater glory to greater glory, and there's no ceiling on top of where that goes. And I got to experience that movement, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. And I had the thought, how come I couldn't have this awareness while I was on earth? And I had this awareness, I could, if I really tried, but it's like a hypnotic pull to feel lack and limitation on earth. But it takes some resistance. It takes some muscle. It's kind of like being in the waves at the ocean. It's like they pull you and push you, but you have to kind of stand your ground. It's kind of like that. So it's like if you can stand your ground and remember this energy, then you could connect this to what's on earth. It's not easy, not effortless, but but it's possible. So I had this thought of, wow, if I don't die, if I do get to go back, I'd like to try that. I'd like to bridge. I'd like to be able to feel this way while, in a human body.
Have you been able to really experience it?
Well, that's a good question, Rini. I'd like to say yes, 100%, but no, that's not true. But more than before. And in fact, every time I think about it, every time I talk about it, and sometimes I meditate on it, I feel like I get to touch the hem of that garment. It's like I get to go back to some degree. I don't know that I have been able to get all the way back to that, but I get a glimmer of it. It's like a flavor of it. And that's enough to lift me up out of whatever striving. So back to the book, when I started writing Luminous Humanness, because to me that was kind of the sum of what I felt was possible. If I could bring in this luminosity from what we would call the heavens into the density of the three-dimensional human realm, then I could be a luminous humanness. That's what I wanted. And when I started to write this book, I felt like my meditation every morning was to reconnect with that place and then see what flowed from there, like what lessons came out of that place in consciousness. So writing this book during the pandemic was amazing, because while everyone is like Chicken Little with their, like, running around with their heads off and, oh my God, this sucks. And even meanwhile, during the pandemic, Gypsy Jennifer, who she used to be known by, is like dying, and she's sacred and so dear to me. And there's so many reasons to feel like life just sucks. But I couldn't go there. I felt too buoyed. And I felt like it was such a blessing, because with Gypsy dying, and Sam, I don't want to be insensitive, because I know this is so painful and so hard. But I felt like, Kelly, remember this. This is where she's going. She's going to this place. Feel sorry for you, because physically you don't get to have that same juicy physical connection with her. But don't feel sorry for her. And in fact, maybe while she's there in this heavenly realm, she'll be able to help you connect with this even more, and help all of us connect with it more. So I have to keep kind of pushing myself to remember that. And it helps to assuage some of the grief. I wouldn't say all of it, but a lot of it.
Yeah. It is one of the most beautiful, inspiring, incredible books I have ever read.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you.
Who did the artwork on the cover?
Oh my gosh. Joe. This is an artist whose her name is Josephine Walls. And I have admired, okay, so Rasuli is also my favorite artist. Like, it's like, how do you pick? Sophie's choice. But Rasuli and I had done so much work together. My publisher suggested that I expand working with other artists. And I said, well, if I was going to work with anyone else, it would be Josephine Walls. Like, she's right up there next to Rasuli. And she agreed to do the cover art for this. And and the cool thing is, in this piece, there's so many pieces. If you take a close look, like, for example, there's like a little, like, Gypsy. This book has Gypsy all over it. This book is dedicated to Gypsy, and Gypsy was all about the moon. She had the moon on her back. So there's a moon coming, like a crescent moon coming out of her head. It's like, and there's this little kind of bubble over her ear, and there's this wolf in it. And to me, I have had a series ongoing of wolf dreams, and wolf being chased by wolves, 1, 2, 3, and then finally in one dream it was a stadium full of wolves. And I have come to accept that they're my spirit animal, and I've let them. Actually, this might sound really gory, but in the last one, I was like, I can't run anymore from you guys. So go ahead. Like, if you're going to kill me, eat me. So it's like they piled on me, devoured me. And I came out of that, a wolf, like wolf woman.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the phenomenon of face your greatest fears. Like it's like, how do you survive the wilderness? Become the wilderness.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I think about it and talk about it, it so empowers me. I feel like come on. Yeah. And it's so funny. I was telling somebody this right after this last dream where I let them, instead of running from them, I let them have me. And I was sharing this with somebody. This was pre-COVID, so we were at a party, and she was talking about these horrible dreams that she had, and she was always running. And I said, why don't you let the thing that's chasing you just have you? Because like you can't really die in a dream. I mean, you can die, but then you get reborn, and you can't really die in this life either, because our spirits are immortal.
Yeah.
So maybe what needs to die needs to friggin' die. Maybe it's your fear that's going to die. Maybe it's just your heaviness.Maybe it's your sadness. Maybe it's some old incarnation that's just done. So let it go. And so I said, let me give you an example. So I told her the long version of my wolf dream. And right after that, somebody came into the party who hadn't been there before. And he came up to me and said, hey, wolf. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah, Kelly, I knew him from about 15 years before. Actually, Gypsy and I, Jennifer is Sam's sister. We call her Gypsy. I call her Gypsy. She and I were in a band years before, and he was the bass player. He came and he played. And so I hadn't seen him in about 20 years, 15 years, maybe 20 years. And he said, yeah, I always called you Wolf. I'm like, no, you didn't. Nobody ever called me Wolf. That doesn't make any sense. But it was like, oh my God. Okay, so synchronicity, what a coincidence. So anyway, I just take it as a big God wink. Like, it's okay
Absolutely.
to be.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't know if this is any daily wisdom words, but it's definitely daily wolf words.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Sometimes you don't need a word, you just need a sound.
That's true. Yeah. So coming up, one of the other unique things about your book is the actual concept and the format of it, like 365 and all that. How did you come up with that specific format? What inspired you to say, this is the way I want to present it to my readers?
Wow. Oh, there's a few things. Thank you for that question. Well, so years and years ago, there was a book that I read that you all may have heard of called Simple Abundance by Sarah Ban Breathnack. And I loved reading this book. It was a story basically for every day of the year. And during that year, I can still remember the way I felt during that entire year reading that book, kind of touching into her consciousness that was so sweet. And so it always made me feel so good. And it wasn't an abundance book about like get rich quick, but it was like a book about feeling rich amid the simple things, simple abundance. And I thought in my mind back then, wow, I'd love to write a book like that could really carry a consciousness for a year. Because after a year, if you spend your time kind of working that particular consciousness muscle, then you're likely to carry that on beyond that year. And it felt like such a gift. It felt like a really unique book, unlike any that I had ever had before. So that planted a seed. And I thought I would tell stories, but and maybe one day I will write a book that is more like that, where it's a story every day of the year. But when the idea for Luminous Humanness came to me, and that was about 14 years ago when I had this death experience, the idea came in that I wanted to write about this phenomenon, about how we can be in this world, not of it, be heavenly, even when all hell is breaking loose. I wanted to get that out. So it just seemed that in tapping into that feeling, I just started writing kind of these short little snippets of kind of meditative thoughts. I added them up and I'm like, wow, what if this is my 365 book, or at least the first of maybe other 365 books. I pitched it to my publisher and he said, done, let's do it. So that was great to have the support.
Absolutely genius.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Is.
I so appreciate
I've never
that.
loved a book like I love this book.
You have no idea how much that means to me. That is
You
thank
have
you.
no idea how much you've changed my life.
What?
Yeah. Reading the affirmations, reading the everyday, what would you call them? Not chapters, but
I would say it's an affirmative thought.
Reading those affirmative thoughts has made me realize what you can do with your life and be, and you are absolutely amazing.
Well, your words, I mean, your daily wisdom words, your words right now just like really rock my soul, because there's some part of me that, of course there's the critic. And I think anybody who writes, no matter what, there's always like, it could be more, like it should have been more. I could have. But it's like, there's some part of me that knows how to work with my critic enough where I'm like, thank you for sharing. But it's, I'm going to just put you aside and keep on shrugging through. So it helps to know that, because it's simple. I'm verbose. I always think more is more, but this book, I did a less is more kind of a thing. Every day it's just very short. It all fits on one page. It's very short.
It's like I said, perfection. So next time that critic comes in your head, you just tell them, Renee said it's perfection.
I'm going to send her right on over to you. Thank you, Renee. Oh, yeah. Someone's talking. Is it my critic that's trying to interrupt? What is she saying now?
I'm sorry.
What has she got to say? I think of my critic, by the way, as Ursula the Sea Witch from The Little Mermaid. And just like blows up in a big puff of smoke and eventually just, yeah. I think it's good as a writer and a poet, or, however we express ourselves creatively, to have a cartoon image of our inner critic so that they lose a little bit of their power. They're not so omnipotent. They're not God. It's like, you're just Ursula the Sea Witch, honey.
Very true.
I got my wolves. We're going to kick your ass.
You're so cute.
I love that.
Oh my.
I really love that. Okay, so Renee, I think what's on your mind? Next question. I asked the last ones.
Well, the book, also, you talk about triggers and, and how you handle them. And in this day and age, so many of us have triggers.
Right.
What advice would you give our audience, or at least explain how you handle your triggers?
Oh, actually, this really feels relevant at this moment. I was just telling somebody the other day that I have a rule for myself, and I didn't used to, but so I'll go back. Right before I got married to my husband, we were having counseling sessions with one of the ministers that married us. We had 3. I needed 3 because I was a serial monogamous. Ursula needed 1 for her. Exactly. The wolves needed their own. Exactly. And then there was Dana and I. But we came in and we were in a fight on this day. And I was telling, I was just full of my wolves had definitely were taken over. And the minister said, okay, here's the thing. You got to knock that off, because your words are going to destroy your relationship. It doesn't matter how good, doesn't matter how much you love each other. What's love got to do with it? Absolutely nothing. If your words can destroy even the most amazing thing. So when you feel triggered on a scale of 1 to 10, if it's above a 3, you're not allowed to talk to the person that triggered you. Walk away, work it out, get it out, go for a jog, go for a run, call a friend, vent it out, get the bees out of your bonnet somewhere other than to the person who triggered it. And then once you're calm, below a 3, then you can speak rationally about how you might make a request, like, would you be willing to apologize, or would you be willing to, give me a hug, or make a request, clean up what happened. But you're not allowed to speak to the person that triggered you when you're activated above a 3. So Dana and I have been married. It'll be 19 years in a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
And if it wasn't for that piece of advice, thank you, we wouldn't be, because I was of the ilk that I'm just expressing myself and it's better out than in. And don't you want to know how I really feel? No, I don't think anybody wants to know how you really feel if it's about them. I mean, somebody else, my best friend, will be happy to hear, or my journal can hear all about it. But if I'm triggered above a 3, that person doesn't get to hear my rage, my upset, my pain, my sadness. They can hear about it when I'm rational and I can make an actual request. Otherwise, I'm just adding insult to injury. So to me, triggers are symbolic of... Okay, I'm going to say one more thing because this is such a juicy question. I believe if I was truly tethered to that luminous humanness place, like how strongly connected to God, to the universe, to life, to love, I felt when I was on the other side. If I felt tethered to that, like almost like I go like this visually, I feel like there's an umbilical cord that connects me from the heavens right to my heart. If I was truly tethered, nothing would trigger me. All manner of chaos could be going on around me. People could be screaming at me, yelling at me, saying, I hate your book. You're a slut. You're stupid. And I would, if I was truly tethered, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry you're in so much pain. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry that something must have happened to you to cause you to think that, or wow. I mean, I wouldn't be triggered. It would be as if somebody was saying, Kelly, you have purple hair and I hate purple hair. And I'd be like, wow, that's interesting that you see it that way, but it wouldn't hurt me. I can only feel hurt or triggered if I'm not plugged in. If I'm plugged into you and I've made you God, and what you say is the be all end all about who I am, then I will get so reactive about you. And it might seem like a compliment that I'm making you God. But in reality, if I'm making you God, then I'm going to end up being a biatch to you. And I don't know if you can cuss on this, so I kind of blurred my words. I don't want anybody getting beeped off. But I need to just stay tethered to my umbilical cord. And then I feel like I'm not so triggerable. And I can stay more luminous in my humanness. So there you go.
Profound way of putting it up. You're saying all these things and it's like, wow, each time I'm in my head, I'm going like, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about, so that's amazing. So I'm going to connect that a little bit to what we just asked to, and to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. What would you say to a complete beginner who's stressed out, got all kinds of things going on in life, issues, if you will, to sort of start off on that journey? Because I would imagine you can't just tell them like, well, that's it, just have a near-death experience and you'll be, that's a good start right there. So
right.
You can't say that. So what would you recommend to those who are beginners and want to embark on this journey or a similar journey, but just don't know where to start or how to go about it?
Great question. And since this is a podcast for writers, to me, my writing started in my journal with just pen to paper, letting my feelings just rip across the page in no particular way, not trying to be poetic, not for anybody's eyes but my own. And if you read most of my journals from way back when, I've been keeping a journal since I was, I want to say maybe 8. I remember going on a family trip around 8 and I took a journal with me. So I think around then. But I'd say the process of just writing how you feel now connects us to, eventually it connects us to the truth of the universe. It's kind of like how simple arithmetic is related to the principles of physics. It's like they're not invalidated. They're connected. So in some way, if I sit down at my journal and I just write about how I'm feeling right now, and I'm with a willingness to get underneath it, like how am I really feeling, and what caused that, what's under that, what's under that, what's under that, looking for the bedrock. I feel like in some way, just as Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist and so many other books, in The Alchemist, he says that when one person taps into their soul, excuse me, when they tap into their soul, they tap into the soul of the world. And so I think it's as simple as that. So anybody who's just starting out, I think whether you're starting out or whether you've been writing books and poetry your whole life for 50 years, every day we have a blank slate. Every day we're anew. And every day I think we have something to journal about. To me, the days that I journal are my better days. Just because I'm getting anything out that's on my mind, good, bad, indifferent. Sometimes it's a gratitude list. Sometimes, as Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, she would say, just write whatever's there. She would say, don't even do a gratitude list. Actually, she reprimanded me because I said I write in my morning pages gratitude list. She said, no, don't do that. Just write. Don't have a plan. Do not think, don't have a structure. Just let your pen, the intelligence of your pen and what comes through you, let that be enough. So I'm like, oh, Jesus, Julia. She was, I put her on such a pedestal. I'm like, I'm taking you down a notch for that. But the message imprinted, and I really appreciate what she has to say, because sometimes I don't want to start with gratitude. I just want to say blah, blah, blah. This person pissed me off. Or what?
F the world.
F the world. Yeah, if you read my journals, you might think I should be locked up. Like, who is this girl? And then you see
you, girl. We should be cellmates.
You would be cellmates, exactly. Us and the wolves. We need a big cell. And Ursula. Ursula too. But like
I figure out who I would be.
Ooh, who would you be? I want to know.
I tend to have very good dreams.
Ooh.
Like
good karma.
I talked about Brad Pitt last night.
Okay. FOMO. A little dream FOMO. How is that? What happened?
We were at a party and I wanted him to kiss me.
And?
He kissed me on the cheek. I think because my husband was in bed. I couldn't go all the way.
You could, hey, but you got him to kiss you. Okay, so one thing I do with dreams is I ask people if there's a significant person that shows up, or an animal or a character, describe them in 3 words. So who's Brad Pitt if I was an alien and had no idea?
Hot, hot, hot.
And maybe a little hot? Okay, hot, hot, hot. So here's a fun thing to keep in mind about dreams. Consider that everyone and everything in your dreams is an aspect of you. And when you dream about kissing someone or having an intimate moment, it means that you have an intimate connection with the hot, hot, hot aspect of yourself. And
really?
Even you could say the masculine, we can add a few more adjectives. He's a man and he's a star. And so we could say it's the star, it's the masculine star aspect of you that is sizzling, smoking hot. So you are connecting with that, and you look beautiful. I'm just meeting you for the first time, but you look smoking hot. So it feels like you've embodied your inner Brad Pitt. And the masculine, I always think, is the part that isn't. It's like every woman has masculine energy, every man has feminine energy. Mm-hmm. For women, I always think of the masculine aspect as the part of us that actually gets up and does stuff, that suits up, shows up. And you did that today. So I'd say your inner Brad Pitt is doing really well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm blushing. Because I don't look at myself as being hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, no, you're kind of hot, hot.
Wise. Maybe hot flash wise. But
join the club. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh my God. This has been so much fun.
It has been.
It really has, yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. Thank you for letting me be your first one out of the gate.
Would you mind being all of them?
Sure. I've got so many sub-personalities.
Like
I could fill up a whole roster.
Kelly.
The United States of Kelly.
I'm down.
Enough about me. Let's talk about me.
The first for me.
Let me ask you guys, let me ask you something as we wrap this up. Let me ask you this. What is your hope for this podcast, since this is the maiden voyage? What are you hoping people will receive and get, and what are you wanting from this? What's your intention?
Well, that they know that we love what we're doing, and that we're meeting some incredible people, and that I hope Samantha is successful.
Yeah.
Because it was her baby.
And Mondays.
Sam.
He came up with the idea. So Monday too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Monday.
And I've got the best co-host.
Yeah. Neil.
You should probably read us off now.
Read us off, but also tell us what you hope people get.
Like almost an hour over time, but that's
not
half an hour, but thank God for editing.
I just hope that people like this podcast when they hear it, and other ones as well. They get, an introduction into worlds and mindfulness and psychology that they probably never had, and or at least another aspect of it, another point of view, and be able to apply it to their lives. Because I think all writers in particular, we always go through all of this mental health issues from time to time, or very often, like me, or but we all have stuff going on in our lives, especially during these times. And so I just hope they find a new perspective through you and all the other guests we have, and I hope they really enjoy it. So
yeah. And I hope and if I can just chime in, I hope that people feel inspired to write. I think if we can give ourselves permission to not have to be good. Julia Cameron says in The Artist's Way, you've got to be willing to be bad in order to be good. So just write. And it's not up to you to make it good. It's just if you just let it rip. Rasuli, the artist that I've worked with on so many projects, if you saw his canvases in their early stages, they look like a crime scene. They're just a mess. And then out of the mess appears an angel. And you never know where it's going to show up, but it does show up. And I think if we just let ourselves write, something beautiful will show up. Can I conclude? Can I just read one little piece, one of my favorite pieces from Luminous Humanist?
Please do, please.
So I've got 4 sisters.
I do too.
And one of my sisters, her birthday was on April 12th, and I wrote a special one. April 7th. That's
my husband's birthday.
That's so cool.
One day after my sister's birthday too.
Oh my God. Wow. Aries. So I wrote this for her. And so April 7th, this is just an example of what you get in Luminous Humanist. This is the bearable lightness of being. When you come upon a person who is so wonderful that they blow your circuits, or an opportunity so incredible you fear it might be too good to be true, or you bump into an unexpected windfall of blessings, just breathe and allow yourself to melt into its embrace. Though you may be temporarily blinded by the light, know that you are becoming acclimated and strengthened so that you will be able to bear this level of high vibe living. Affirmation. As I develop my spiritual stamina, this heavenly state will one day be my baseline.
Wow.
Amazing.
So, the lesson in all of this is that our audience needs to buy this book so that they can find their luminous humanists. So,
uniquely. Everyone expresses it differently. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a thing.
No, it's not. But,
But this is like a great introduction and segue to it. So, it's the perfect if they want it, if anybody wants just an idea of what all this is about and all that, what better way than to buy the book?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't mind that one bit.
I'm trying, Cal. I'm trying.
Thank you, Rini. Thank you,
You're
Neil.
welcome.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Monday. What a joy to be with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Kelly, it's been a real big pleasure to talk with you today.
Thank you.
We hope to have you on again in early July. I love your book, and I think our listeners will as well. Tell us one more time the title and where it can be purchased, and any upcoming details you care to share about what you're working on now.
Oh, yeah. So the book is called Luminous Humanness, 365 Ways to Go, Grow, and Glow to make it your best year yet. And it's available wherever books are sold. I think most people go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble to get them. But if you go to your mom and pop bookstore, now that things are starting to open up, that would be great to support them because they've been hit really hard. And my website is kellysullivanwalden.com. And I always like to say, if that's too hard to spell, just go to ihadthestrangestdream.com. That'll take you to the same place. And you can get a free meditation from me, a luminous humanness meditation to listen to as you go to sleep. So you have sweet dreams, and it helps to empower you to go to sleep and get a better night's sleep. But also one of the new things I have coming up actually in September is it's a writing workshop. And I've never done this. I used to lead Artist Way workshops way back in the day, like 20, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. But this is a workshop for people who really have a book in them, but they just haven't seemed to figure out how to get her done. I'm calling the workshop Get Her Done. And it's it's actually a very intensive workshop. It'll be it's a 9-month process. Every week we'll meet for 9 months. And my intention is to support people in writing 1 page a day. And in 9 months, you'll have the first draft of your book and you'll have a manuscript. So I have mentors coming in. I have publishers, agents, editors that you can meet that are professional in the business to give their wisdom and also be a mentor to the people in the group. And it's a really great price. It's like kind of amazing. It's the first time I'm doing it. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but it's available on my website, Get Her Done. So if you just go to kellysullivanwalden.com or ihadthestrangestdream.com, scroll down about halfway on the page and you'll see the banner for the Get Her Done workshop.
Okay. That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, everyone, this brings us to the end of our very first Daily Wisdom Words podcast. Once again, we want to thank our lovely guest, Kelly Sullivan Walden, a.k.a. Dr. Dream. Join us next week for an exclusive 2-part series on childhood abuse and trauma with Catherine Mellon. You don't want to miss this one. And don't forget to submit a question by Wednesday of this week to be read on the show, along with your name and how you heard of us. To enter your question for our guest on trauma and child abuse, simply go to dailywisdomwords.com, look for the menu, and click on our podcast page. Enter your question, and remember, once again, if we choose it to be on the show, you will win a mystery gift.
We want to thank everyone for joining us today and listening. And Monday Abu, our producer, visit us at dailywisdomwords.com and sign up if you are a poetry, fiction, articles, or just anything else. Just $10 for a lifetime membership, no dues. Take part in our active writing prompts and make sure to use our mini Facebook app to send and receive your request and response to meet other writers. I think that's responses to meet other writers just like you.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We may have to edit this, but at Daily Wisdom Words. We will see you next Saturday with Kathy Mellon, as we said earlier, who will be sharing her experiences of how she rose above several personal tragedies and trauma that you will not believe. I am Neil Trivedi.
I am Rainey Reed.
And we'll connect with you next Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.